much protein your muscles need to grow big and strong, the science. In this video, I'll go into how you can make your muscles grow in strength as well as in size. aka I'll go into some basics when it comes to muscle hypertrophy. Then I'll talk about how much protein you need to support your training, ideally. Then I quickly go into protein quality and 2 example days of eating that make hitting the protein target super easy. And lastly, I'll go briefly into how carbohydrates support your training. Let's get right into it. First, let's cover basics. Before I start, let me remind you that exercise should be about enjoyment. Sure, if you're anything like me, then you like to know all the variables that improve your training, recovery, and overall progress. However, if this isn't you, you don't have to follow a 100% textbook approach towards gaining the most muscle, leaning out the most, or gaining the most endurance. Exercise is super healthy either way, and I wholeheartedly believe that the most important thing is to enjoy the sport long term, because then it's sustainable and progress follows naturally, even if you don't follow the science to a T. Now, that out of the way, let's talk about how you build muscle mass. If we want to build our muscles, we want muscle hypertrophy, which is the enlargement of total muscle mass and cross-sectional area. And it happens when the rate of muscle protein synthesis is greater than muscle protein breakdown. It means you build muscle by using your muscles, which obviously totally makes sense. As the main driver for muscle growth is mechanical tension, which is the stretching force on the muscle. It's when a muscle is contracting and elongating under load. And mechanical tension actually increases as we approach failure, as stress increases on the muscle fibers and they start to fatigue. So it's not just about using your muscles, but to let them know that you need more of them by approaching failure or close to failure during exercise. And now that we understand what we physically have to do to make our muscles grow over time, how much dietary protein do we need in order to help protein synthesis? I found a meta-analysis that looked at over 49 studies with a total of 1,863 participants who looked at exactly that. Quick background, all of the participants engaged in resistance training and either added extra protein to their diet or didn't. This was basically to see whether or not we need to pay extra attention to our protein consumption if we reach our daily caloric intake in order to support our muscle growth adequately. And just as a reminder on the side, the average overall protein recommendation is 0.8 gram per kilogram of body weight for humans. Now, when looking at the results of this analysis, we see something that might surprise you because it contradicts the protein marketing that tells everybody that they need protein supplementation, even if you don't exercise. This study suggests that protein supplementation does not provide significant benefits if individuals are not engaged in resistance training. Which makes sense, obviously, as the body adapts to whatever your activity requirements are. So if you're not training, extra protein in your diet will not grow your muscle mass magically. However, for those who do resistance training, there is a slight advantage if they consume higher protein amounts, from 1 gram per kilogram up to 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight. Interestingly for many maybe is that everything over that limit did not further contribute to muscle gain, meaning if you consume 1.7, 1.8 or even up to 2.5 grams per kilogram body weight, you will not gain any more muscle mass because of that, because it seems like there is a limit reached with around 1.6 gram of body weight, if that makes sense. Another thing that is important to be said is that the difference between 1 gram per kilogram to 1.6 gram per kilogram is super minuscule if you look at the data when it comes to building more muscle mass and strength between that kind of area, as you can see here. It's like Dr. Duff Gavis said in his latest Instagram post that actually reposted on my YouTube page, that if a bodybuilder or an Olympic athlete needs every edge, every slight benefit they can get, it makes sense for them to eat around that upper limit of 1.6 gram per kilogram of protein intake. But as amateur athletes, most likely you and me, it doesn't really seem to make much difference in terms of muscle growth. There might be even a case to make against high protein consumption because of all the linkages to higher all-cause mortality, especially when it comes to animal-based protein sources. As even swapping as little as just 3% of plant protein for any of the animal protein sources such as processed meat, unprocessed meat, poultry, fish, eggs or dairy was associated with a significant lower risk of mortality. And you might be wondering what the difference is, because isn't protein? Researchers hypothesize it's the package protein comes in, aka does your protein come packaged with sex hormones like estrogen, which the highest levels are found in poultry, eggs and dairy, as well as saturated fat and heme iron, or does it come in a package of fiber, antioxidants and phytochemicals, which are primarily found in plant protein sources, including things like legumes, like beans and lentils, whole grains, nuts and seeds, for example. But I will cover the health aspects of protein intake in another video, so make sure to subscribe to not miss that one. Now let's put that aside and focus back on protein intake and muscle gaining. So how could a healthy day of eating look like that supports muscle growth? Let's create a few example days with yours truly, as I personally know my metrics. So I am 1m72 and I currently weigh 65 kilograms. With exercise, I would consume around 2,200 to 2,400 calories per day. Now we've seen that the protein intake difference in muscle gain between 1 and 1.6 gram per kilogram isn't really that big, so I'll be aiming for the charming in between at 1.3 grams per kilogram, which by the way is something I personally never aspired to eat that much in terms of protein, as I'd rather have a more carb than protein focused diet to support my endurance performance. So I'm usually around 0.9 to 1.1 gram of body weight if I would have to guess, and with what I previously logged in Chronometer. Anyway, I created a few meals that will get us to the 1.3 protein per body weight easily. I think it's even a little bit more, to grow some extra muscle with resistance training. That would be in total 84 grams of protein per day for myself. Let's start the day with breakfast, which to me is either a big smoothie or an oatmeal, depending on the weather really and the temperature. A big smoothie with me contains around 4 bananas, like medium to large bananas, as well as frozen fruit and some flax seeds. In this case, because we want to hit a higher protein goal, I would also put in some chia seeds for omega-3 and some extra protein, which leads me to 12.6 grams of protein to start the day. Now to the colder day approach, which would be a delicious oatmeal. I would put in some raspberries, again some flax seeds, and I always have a banana for breakfast, I'm really sorry. I would put like a banana on top as well, which leads me to 21.5 grams of protein for breakfast for the winter breakfast edition. So for lunch, I often have either a sandwich with soup or baked beans on toast, because I live a very lazy and simple life when it comes to my food. So for baked beans on toast, I would put like hummus underneath the baked beans, and if I have at hand, I would put some greens like rocket or something on the side, because I like the flavor, but I have to have it fresh in the house, if you know what I mean. With that kind of lunch, I would get another 30.7 grams of protein very easily. My option number 2 would be soup and a sandwich. I love me some good lentil vegetable soup. I don't know about you, there are loads of good soups out there, but this is like an all-time favorite. So I would have that soup with a sandwich on the side. In the sandwich, I'll put avocado as well as some marinated tofu slice. That is lower fat, and you do it either in the air fryer or on the pan. Delicious, as well as some tomatoes, and that will give me an additional 29.9 grams of protein. By the way, these are all meals you can basically prepare beforehand. Anyway, for snacks or pre-workout, I usually always go with fruits because they energize me, they hydrate me, they're sweet, I love them. For fruits, it really depends what is in season, usually always a banana and maybe some grapes or clementines, and that adds up between 3 to 5 more grams of protein through fruit. And then for dinner, I selected these 2 options. I have such a variety every day, but let's just go with these 2. It's either a stir fry or a curry. And I think everybody loves the stir fry or a curry. If you're not liking it, then I don't know what you're doing here. Just joking. So let's talk about the stir fry. I would make a vegetable edamame bean based stir fry with some udon noodles and have it in like soy sauce and spices dressing. Like, oh, Good stuff. This will add me an additional 40.6 grams of protein to my day, and the other option with the curry would be sweet potato and chickpea curry. It's just, you can't go wrong with these ingredients, and some white rice on the side, and maybe some greens like broccoli, and that would add me for the second day to 32.6 grams of protein to my day. Which leaves me with my first smoothie, soup and curry option with a total of 2,338 calories with a total of 89.4 grams of protein. And for the oatmeal, baked bean and stir fry option, I'm getting around 2,363 calories with a total of 87.1 grams of protein. So this very easily demonstrates how simple it is to get more than enough protein to support healthy muscle growth while resistance training. And let me remind you that protein goal was very easily achieved without any sort of protein powder. Now I can already see the comments. Before you start writing a comment saying how high these meals are in terms of carbohydrates, let me remind you that although carbs themselves don't build muscle mass, they fuel every cell in your body, including your brain and your existing muscles, so you can do the exercises that promote further muscle growth. I hope that makes sense. And of course the package in which your protein and your carbs come from overall determines your recovery after exercise as well. And the more and quicker you can recover, the quicker you can go back to training to make some more gains. Why do I do this? I don't know. If you would start to restrict carbohydrates, your body would start breaking down not just fat for energy, which you maybe intend, but also protein mass on your body, which would lead to muscle protein breakdown, aka you would lose muscle mass although you resistance train, instead of having protein synthesis, which would generate muscle growth. If you don't believe me, check out this study where people on a ketogenic, basically means no or low carb diet, high fat, high protein, trained for 8 weeks to build muscle and ended up at a loss compared to the control group who kept carb consumption up. As those randomized to the non-ketogenic group diet added about 3 pounds of muscle, whereas the same amount of weightlifting on a keto diet tended to subtract muscle with an average loss of around 3.5 ounces of muscle during that 8-week period. That basically means all that weightlifting was kind of for nothing. The moral of the story is, whether your goal is fat loss, muscle gain or cardio endurance, carbohydrates should ideally stay in your diet for optimal results. If you want to see the science around why carbohydrates don't really lead to body fat gain, check out this video next. I see you there if you like. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button if you learned anything new today, and I see you in my next video if you like. Take care. Bye!